Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Sports Talk Trio. Today will just be a strictly college basketball episode. So I'm Drew Pashowski here with Sir Goldwine and the freshly cut up Gino DeFrank. So we're going to get right into it with our first conference. We're kind of just going to be going over the conference, maybe some sleeper teams to look out for, maybe, and the team that we think will win the conference. So first off, we will start with the ACC.
Yeah, so as the Duke fan, I feel compelled to go first on this one. I think we all have Duke as our number one team in the ACC this year. It should be pretty easy to see why. This is probably the most experienced Duke team I've seen in a while. Returning not all four, but 4 of our 5 starters from last year is pretty rare for a Duke team. So obviously 4 sophomores isn't crazy experience, but by Duke standards it is. Kyle Filipowski is one of those guys. He should be first-team All-American this year. Mark Mitchell, I think, is the X factor of this team. He's our best wing defender, and he can also score pretty efficiently. And then we also bring in the number 2, I believe, recruiting class in the country. Jared McCain and Caleb Foster are 2 of those guys in the backcourt. That should be the best backcourt in the country with Roach and Proctor as well. And then Sean Stewart, TJ Power in the front court should give us some depth. The one thing about this team that is a little suspect right now is that center position. It looks like so far the plan is for John Shire to roll with Cal Filipowski at the 5, which is suspect on defense. I think they should start Christian Reeves for some rim running and shot blocking. But other than that, this Duke team is pretty stacked.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a solid all-around Duke team. You know, there's nothing really not to like. I think North Carolina is also another team to look back for. Armando Bacot has to be 25 by now.
He's old.
He is as old as it gets. RJ Davis comes back. They have a solid team that's going to be able to compete. Then you got Miami coming off an Elite 8 finish from last year.
Yeah, Final Four.
Yeah, Final Four.
Elite
Final
8 the year
Four,
before
yeah.
that, and then Final Four.
Yeah, so they've been hot. Lost their 2 best guys, Wong and...
that other guy.
Yeah, I forget the other dude's name. But they return 3 starters, too. I think they're a team to look out for.
Yeah, Matthew Cleveland is big for them, too.
Oh,
he was
yeah.
Probably Florida State's best player last year.
Nigel Pack, too.
Yeah.
It's good. He's a big presence inside, too. So look out for Miami for sure. I know Drew's big on Clemson. Just missed the tournament last year. A lot of people think they got kind of snubbed, which I kind of agree with. The ACC, I feel like the value in the conference has gone downhill of late. We're getting 5 to 6 teams in every year, but
and they go
look, 4 of those teams are always going to be in the Sweet 16. I think we're the opposite of the Big Ten. We might not have the volume, but the top tier teams are always making good runs.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
I also have Duke at my number 1. They seem like they're going to be pretty dominant this year from what Sawyer's been telling me, as he is a big Duke fan. We'll see what happens in their Duke-UNC game. For me, it's usually Duke usually probably loses in Chapel Hill, and then other way around.
They won last year, but okay.
Well, UNC sucked last year.
Well, yeah.
And then watch out for Clemson, as Gino said. Miami's going to be up there. I think the ACC probably will have 5 teams making it this year. Virginia, Clemson, Miami, UNC, and Duke.
I think we deserve more teams than that. I think we're going to get back to be getting 7 teams in, hopefully at least. Of course, I'm a Pitt fan. I have them around the middle of the pack finish. It's going to be hard to replace a lot of guys we had back last year. Nelly Cummings, can't remember, Burnett. I'm trying to think of his name.
You.
I am. I'm stubbing on his name really bad right now. Greg Elliott, but we return an all ACC second team player in Blake Henson. We're going to rely on the really kind of doing it all this year. Fun fact about him, as we are right now watching Pitt, Florida State. Florida State offered him a football and basketball scholarship in the 8th grade.
That's
this kid.
wild.
He was not a late bloomer, he was an early bloomer. He was massive at a very young age. I think he was recruited for tight end, actually, and he looks like one. We're going to rely on a very young backcourt, 2 freshmen probably, and Jalen Lowe and Carlton, who are both DMV guys, actually, if I'm pretty sure on that one. We return most of our front court in Federico, and the Diaz twins.
All-American name team.
Yeah, we might be the most thin team alongside not Henson, but it should be interesting. I think it should be really interesting to watch Syracuse this year, the first year of the non-Boeheim era, so no zone defense, so yeah.
Yeah, I really like Syracuse this year. They did lose Jesse Edwards down there in the paint, which I think is going to be big for them. But I trust Adrian Autry without that 2-3 zone. I think that was just so outdated. Like, teams really just figured it out by this point, and it just wasn't working. But they got a lot of big transfers. J.J. Starling is the big one from Notre Dame.
They still have Judah Mintz.
Yeah, Judah Mintz is crazy.
He can get a bucket whenever he wants.
Yeah, they got Kyle Cuff from Kansas, Chance Westry from Auburn. I think they got a lot of impact guys on that team. And then another team I like too is Virginia Tech. They always kind of beat up on Duke for some reason. That's just kind of our kryptonite. But Sean Padula and Hunter Couture, they're going to torch some people in the ACC. That should be probably one of the most underrated backcourts in the country, I think. Yeah, they'll be really good.
I'd like to point out Louisville. They lost to a D2 team, by the way, in their exhibition game, and they, I believe, are at the bottom of all of our lists. So, yeah. Sorry, Sterling. Sorry about that.
Hold up.
You are a Kentucky fan. Forgot about that.
You have them second to last. I have them third to last.
They're last.
I don't feel great about that.
I think they're
full disclosure. We made all these rankings before all these secret scrimmages came out.
Yeah,
that wasn't even secret. That was broadcasted live.
Yeah. All the exhibitions and scrimmages came after these rankings. So if I could go back, I would probably move Louisville down a couple spots. But
I think the last kind of a interesting thing to look at is maybe see what Florida State does if they can respond. They were on a streak of I think 6 tournaments in a row till last year. They didn't make it. So they should be very interesting to watch this year. Virginia also, kind of last year, they just weren't really an experienced team, and that's what they have every year. So it should be interesting to watch them. Look out for Wake. I think Wake could be on the rise this year.
Yeah, I mean, another team I want to touch on real quick, because I know, Gino, you have them at 3 of them at 4. I have Clemson at 11. Which I know is a little...
I need some reasoning.
That's pretty low. I don't trust Brad Brownell, first of all. I just don't think he's a good coach. I don't love his rotations. Anytime I watch Clemson games, I just feel like they got some weird lineups out there.
They do.
And then also, I know their big impact transfer was Joe Girard. Personally, I don't get it.
Yeah.
When I watch Joe Girard, I don't see great things. I think if he's hot shooting, then he's hot shooting, but he doesn't do much else beyond that.
But you still have P.J. Hall, who's probably one of the best bigs in the league.
I do love P.J. Hall, but I just don't trust this team. I think if Girard doesn't play really well, they might struggle.
Yeah, definitely. We're now going to move on to technically our home conference here in the Big East, as we all here go to Butler, of course. So, usual stacked conference. There is a bit of a drop-off, and Butler's kind of sadly in that drop-off. Hopefully not. But... you got Marquette, probably the favorite coming into this. You have the reigning champ, UConn. You have a great Creighton team who was in the Elite Eight last year. Providence, I believe, was Sweet 16. Even though they lost Ed Cooley, he'll now be at neighboring Georgetown. You have St. John's with Rick Pitino basically bringing in the whole Iona roster, who gave UConn, actually, people looked at this, I believe it was their closest game in the tournament.
I think it was.
If you look at scores, I believe Iona did give UConn their closest game. So
St. John's, though, another secret scrimmage situation or exhibition situation.
They might have lost to, what was the school called? It was Division II. I forget the name.
It was a D2 school.
It wasn't Ithaca, I know that.
I was really high on St. John's coming into the year with Pitino, and also Simeon Wilcher is a guy you didn't mention who flipped from UNC to go to St. John's last second. I thought they had a ton of talent. They were going to be really good, but I don't trust that anymore.
Yeah. I think you got to look out. Providence, I think, has the best player in this conference, and Bryce Hopkins. That dude is... Over who? Tyler Kolek? I don't know. I think Hopkins is the most all-over... Kolek is a game changer. That dude, because he runs the point. He controls the pace of the game on both ends. But Hopkins has the most, I think, talent. Best NBA prospect.
Talent-wise,
in my opinion.
Donovan Clingan.
Talent? Dude,
he's 7'2". He can stretch.
Yeah, I hope he has. He don't even need much talent at that height.
Yeah, he can shoot, too. I'd say talent-wise, it's him. Skill-wise, it's Kolek.
Dude, I think it's Hopkins. If you're asking a pro and myself, I think it's Hopkins.
I think a team we got to watch out for in the Big East is Villanova. I think they'll be back at it. Obviously, they lost Jay Wright a few years ago, and their new coach hasn't been up to good things. But this year, they added a 4-star Matthew Hodge and Lance Ware. They also have Justin Moore, I believe that's his name, a guard who's a beast. I know he's a beast, so watch out for Villanova. I don't know if they'll compete with UConn and Marquette, but I think they could maybe get the 3 seed over Creighton or something.
Yeah, they brought in a huge bit of transfers. Tyler Burton, not averaged 19 at Richmond. TJ Bamba, 16 at Washington State. Hakeem Hart, 12 at Maryland, and Lance Ware from Kentucky. So they brought in a good bit. They were 500 last year. Villanova and NIT is usually not a sentence you hear often, but it was that case last year. They're looking hopefully to bounce back up. Hopefully, for themselves this year down there in Philly. I think now, because we all here go to Butler, I think we're kind of give our little Butler takes. Everyone can admit Butler's going to be somewhere from that 7 to 9 range. I don't think they're the DePaul or like Georgetown or Seton Hall. Maybe DePaul, no. Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
We need to beat DePaul.
But yeah,
please.
We're going to be somewhere around that 7 to 8 marks. But the Big East is probably going to snag 5-6 teams in the tournament. So if Butler can pull some upsets off, maybe they can find themselves in the NIT. Hopefully, maybe
at Hinkle
tournament. Yeah.
Yeah. NIT would be a win for Butler. Watch out for Pierre Brooks. Me and Sawyer were talking about it. He was a dog in the exhibition games we went to. Watch out, Jameel Telford's I actually like the way he plays. He's better than Jalen Thomas.
Oh, so Gino is not a Pierre Brooks guy. Also not a Jameel Telford guy.
Oh, he's an athletic freak. Yeah. I will give that to him.
Telford sucks.
He is an athlete out there, but he cannot shoot the basketball.
He just moves so awkward.
His form's whacker than Drew.
He moves like a bodybuilder. He kind of just grabs the ball, he has his elbows swinging and stuff. He's he doesn't know where he's going.
In transition, he's good. Yeah. Because he's just like an athletic freak running down the paint. No one wants to get in his way.
Yeah, the guy that's getting a lot of hype for Butler right now after the first exhibition game is Connor Turnbull, sophomore center. He can stretch the floor, which is big for them because Butler's other two centers, Jalen Thomas and Andre Screen, can't. So that'll give him 2 7-footers on the floor with Turnbull. Yeah, we're laughing at Andre Screen. He's not good.
He's a goofy-looking fellow.
Yeah, Turnbull should
be
he's
really good around the rim. He's a really good rim protector, and he puts in a lot of, last-second tips. So
yeah.
I think, we do have the former Big East Defensive Player of the Year in Posh Alexander, who's coming over from St. John's. I think he's going to be the heart and soul of this team. I think we need him healthy all year long because he's going to be our floor general out there kind of trying to keep us in games with other Big East solid backcourts. And then Landon Moore off the bench, transfer from St. Francis, a PA. He's going to be relied on kind of as like that guard off the bench to really just apply good minutes off the bench for sure. And I think one thing to look at is DJ Davis. As I was talking to some guys earlier, the levels of basketball are so different if you go among different conferences, like from Division II to Division I. But one thing that stays the same, if you can shoot the ball lights out, you can succeed. And I think that's what DJ Davis is. That's what Butler was missing last year, was a guy who could shoot. And I think they found him in him.
Yeah, I think that's what could be big is those lineups with like Davis, Moore, maybe Turnbull too. I mean, we could have 4 shooters on the floor. Yeah, Turnbull can shoot and drive, which is huge. So I think we could have like a lineup with Posh and 4 shooters or 4 shooters and a big. And that could be big because I think Butler's pretty versatile this year, which is new for them.
Yeah, which is good. They needed to do that for sure.
Butler also added a 3-star recruit over this past summer or whatever. Finley Bizjack from Texas.
He's a 4-star, actually.
4-star.
So I believe he's top 100.
It depends on the site you look at.
Yeah, Rivals or ESPN, whatever you
24/7 is a 3-star. You never know.
But he can shoot a little bit. Can be a little inconsistent, but he's also a freshman, so.
Yeah. Look out for him to maybe get more minutes as the year goes on. I think he's going to be kind of relied on.
Yeah, and if something does happen to Posh, then he's probably going to be the one to step up and run point. Unless
I don't know. Probably Landon. I don't know. I don't know if they want Finley running the point. I haven't seen him.
Personally, I'd put Landon at the point over.
Too much.
Or not Landon. I put Finley at the point over Landon. Yeah. But I don't know. It's tough.
The Big East should be interesting this year. There's a lot of, I'm going to just chime in a little bit. Xavier, I think they're in for kind of a huge fall off. They took down Pitt last year. They did make it to the Sweet 16. They do have 2 guys. Zach Fremantle is out the whole year with foot injury, and then Jerome Hunter, the injury's not really being disclosed. No one really knows what's going on with him. But they lost a lot from last year's team. They do return a few guys, and they hit the transfer portal pretty good. But they lost guys like Jack Nunge, who was a great, solid big, Soli Bohm, Colby Jones. A really good team, but I think they're going to have a fall-off year, in my opinion. I think they could find themselves toward the bottom three of the Big East, and a lot of people aren't suspecting that.
And those guys you just mentioned, that's pretty much their whole rotation.
Yeah, they played 6 guys last year.
We talked about this off camera. Xavier had no depth last year, and they just lost like 4 or 5 of those 6 guys that actually played, so they should be in trouble. Then at the bottom, obviously, you got your Seton Hall, your Georgetown, your DePaul. Those should all be pretty bad.
DePaul's terrible.
DePaul in particular should be pretty much a lock for the bottom. Georgetown has some talent and some coaching. They could make a run. Seton Hall, Shaheem Holloway's there, obviously. Coach St. Peter's up, so maybe there'll be a little bit of surprise. Could upset some people, but DePaul feels like the one team that if you lose to them, no matter if you're Georgetown or if you're Marquette, it doesn't matter. You should not lose to DePaul.
What do they call the not tier 4 loss, but you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the quadrant.
Quadrant. That's a quad 4 loss for sure,
especially at home.
I don't think DePaul's upsetting anyone. No offense.
I think they'll take out like a Seton Hall or something like that, but that's about the extent.
They might win like one conference game.
They'll be like a Cal of last year.
Yeah. We're now going to move on to the Big Ten, a.k.a. let's get 9 teams into the tournament and for none of them to make it to the Sweet 16. Usual from them. Purdue, huge disappointment from last year. Obviously lost to FDU in the first round. You know, they weren't the first 1 seed to go down, but maybe they are in return for a Virginia type return. Maybe lose first round, then go win the title next year. They do return. Was he the player of the year last year?
He was.
Yeah, and Zach Edey. So, and they return most of their guard guys, but they're just a solid defensive team. They're gonna have to score low scoring games or win low scoring games, and kind of just rely on Edey to just dominate as he did last year.
Yeah, looking at the rest of the Purdue team, I think Fletcher Loyer is a guy that's getting a lot of hype going into this year. I think he's a little overrated. He's a little inconsistent shooting. I actually like Braden Smith better. He's their point guard. I think he does a good job distributing the ball, getting it down low to Edey, but also finding shots for the rest of the team. So I think he's pretty good. Obviously, Edey's going to be the main piece there. I have Purdue second in the Big Ten, though. I do think Michigan State's going to be a better team, purely because of their experience. Their starting lineup is 4 seniors and a junior, which is pretty crazy for pretty much any team. So you got Hogard and Walker starting, Matty Sissoko down low as well. And then they got a good recruiting class, too, with Xavier Booker down low. I think he's going to be really good for them. They kind of out-recruited Duke for him. But I think Michigan State's going to be the team to watch in the Big Ten.
For me, I agree. Michigan State's going to be good. It's hard for a Michigan State team to say Michigan State's going to be bad. Honestly, coached by Tom Izzo, one of the greatest coaches of all time.
That's debatable.
He's one of, not the best.
Am I seeing? Is that Iowa number 3? I would just like an explanation on what you're seeing here.
Please elaborate on Iowa.
I have them at 12. Sure, you got them at 13. I just want to know what you see. If you have nothing to back it up, you can just say pass.
Again, I do not know college basketball.
All right, we're going to go to a pass. I think a teams to look at is Illinois. You have Terrence Shannon Jr., who's one of the best scorers in the league, coming back. Other front court guys like Coleman Hawkins and Dane Danger. I think Illinois is a team to look out for. In their mini scrimmage, they beat who'd they beat in their little scrimmage? Let me look it up. They beat someone really good in their scrimmage probably last week now as we're talking about it.
While you look that up, I think Drew probably forgot there's no more Murray brothers at Iowa.
Yeah.
No.
they ran out of stock.
Don't disrespect. They'll be back. They've been good the past few years. Watch out for the Hoosiers and IU.
All right,
I feel like they could be a little underrated.
They'll be all right.
Illinois beat Kansas. Took them down by, I think it was about a 10-point game, but we'll get to Kansas later. I'm not too excited about watching them. I think a team to look out for is Maryland. A team who returns a lot that a lot of people were sleeping on last year in the tournament. They beat WVU first round, I remember. And they gave, I forget whoever they played in the second round, a really good game, but I think Maryland,
Alabama.
With second-year coach Kevin Willard has a pretty good squad this year. I think a team that's looking to hopefully get back as a Wisconsin team. Probably, from what I've heard, the most experienced team in all of college basketball. A lot of fifth-year dudes on that team. There's no Brad Davison anymore. He's finally gone. I think he might have been gone 2 years ago. But that's a team to look out for sure. Northwestern with Bo Bowie will look to make back-to-back consecutive NCAA appearances, which has never happened in their history. I think they only have 3 total. They hit the transfer portal pretty good. got Blake Preston out of Liberty, Justin Mullins out of Denver, and Ryan Lamberg out of Princeton. So they had to replace some guys, but they rebounded well. Would either of you like to chime in on Ohio State? I know you're only for football, but...
No, I can chime in a little bit on basketball. I think Zed Key is still there.
Yeah.
He's freaking trash.
Just to mention a guy to call him trash. All right.
I think he's still there, but he's just so one-dimensional. He's big, but he's our center, and I think he's like 6'7" or 6'8". And we never had a tall center. Chris Holtman's a terrible coach. I mean, he needs to go. I was talking about it with someone, I forgot who it was, but Chris Holtman's recruiting pitch is literally, we're good at football, you can come to a game and watch us win.
You talked about that with me.
But, I mean, Chris Holtman needs to go. He doesn't run an offense. It's just like pick and roll, which obviously is a little bit of an offense, but other than that, that's all it is. But I don't think they'll be good for a while. I know they did get a pretty decent recruit or a decent transfer, but I got them at like 6, sliding into the middle of the Big Ten. They did make it to the Big Ten championship last year, though. They lost. But.
Yeah, they went on a run.
Yeah, we did go on a run.
For me, for OSU, I actually like OSU this year. I have them finishing 4th. I do agree. Wow. Chris Holtman's not a great coach. I don't think he's as bad as you're saying he is. And he's not a terrible recruiter. But that recruit you mentioned was Devin Royal.
Oh, yeah. I saw him play in high school. He's a beast.
Yeah, he's a top 50. He should be really good in the future. I don't think he'll be a huge part of this team. But in terms of this team, I think Roddy Gale is a guy to look out for. He came on pretty strong down the stretch last
Bruce
year.
Thornton was
Bruce Thornton's really
Bruce
good
Thornton's
too.
a beast.
So I think that's a great backcourt. Roddy Gale and Bruce Thornton, a couple sophomores back there. They should be really good this season. Another team I like personally, you mentioned Northwestern already. I love them. Illinois as well. I don't love Indiana this year. I know Drew, you're about to start talking about them. They did lose their 2 best players in Jalen Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis. I don't know why they have such long names, but they lost those 2. And
watch out for Gabe Cupps.
Gabe Cupps is good, but they're
I don't think he's gonna.
I've seen Gabe Cupps dunk on someone live action. That was one of the craziest moments of my entire life.
He is good, but their big recruit this year was Mackenzie Mbako. They flipped him from Duke, and he got arrested already. So not off to a great start there. I think they're going to have some trouble putting the pieces together this year.
Yeah, one of my possibly player of the year. Not really, but he'll probably be a first teamer.
This is about to be outlandish.
You know who I'm talking about, dude? You know who I'm going to mention right now is Kessie Tominga out of Nebraska, sharpshooter. I think they're a sneaky team to make a run. I think you could see them in the tournament possibly. They made a few pickups in Missouri Valley, big man Rank Moss out of Bradley. I believe he was player of the year, or he was a first teamer, and a few other guys to come in that team. I think they can have a slow rise. I see them maybe as a 9 seed coming out of there.
The one other team in the Big Ten I do like is Penn State. I know I think they lost Pickett this year, right? No more Pickett this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have Pickett anymore. He was their big piece. But I really like Mike Rhodes as a coach. I wasn't as big of a Shrewsbury fan, honestly.
Yeah.
Obviously he got them to the tournament, which is progress for them. But I don't think he was that great. I really think Mike Rhodes is a great coach from VCU. And he brings over Ace Baldwin.
Yeah, he's
a great floor general. I think he's going to lead this team to big things. I think Penn State's a sneaky team to look out for the tournament.
All right, we're now going to move on to the Big 12, arguably probably... Now with the addition of Houston, I think obviously the best conference in college basketball. Obviously you have Hunter Dickinson at Kansas. Everyone's going to have their talks. Even though I don't like him in the Kansas system, I think Kansas is always a very up-tempo, fast-paced team. They prefer their centers to be more like, as Azubuike was, more of just kind of like a shot-blocking presence and a rebound presence. They never really demanded scoring in the post from their center. So I don't know how Hunter Dickinson's going to work in that system, but it's going to be intriguing to see.
Yeah, we were talking about that off camera with the fact that Kansas never really run through a big. You're used to seeing Kansas have those like experienced guards and kind of that glue guy wing, and then just some tall dude at center doing the dirty work. That's kind of what their team build has been for the past like decade, more or less. So I do think it's going to be a learning curve for them to learn how to play with Dickinson. I think they'll pull it off. I don't think they'll be bad this year. But I have them at 2 in the conference. I have Texas at 1. They were really impressive last year, really all season, but especially in the tournament. They bring back Tyrese Hunter. I love him a lot. Max Asmus is going to be a huge transfer for them from Oral Roberts. I mean, like you said, shooting doesn't really. There's no learning curve. It'll translate anywhere. He's a pure scorer. I mean, he can shoot, but he can also score at all three levels. Obviously, the driving maybe he'll struggle against a little more size in the Big 12. Yeah. But other than that, he should be just as good as always. Dylan Mitchell's one of the best wings in the league or in country, I think. Mm-hmm. He's an NBA prospect. And then the bigs, Dylan Dessou and Caden Shedrick, both really good last year. Shedrick was at UVA. Dessou was with Texas. So I think this is a really strong starting lineup.
Yeah.
I think this team can make a really deep run in March.
I think also you got to look out for Houston. Obviously, they lost a lot. They returned Jamal Shed, though. I think it's going to be an X factor in the league. But yeah, they lost a lot of known comedies in Javier Francis, Jawan Roberts, and Emmanuel Sharp. This team's just an athletic kind of freak. I've seen them play in person a few times with the NCAA tournament being hosted in Pittsburgh. They're always there. Any year, it's there. Houston's like guaranteed there. I apologize. I'm messed up a little bit. No Marcus Sasser, who was a dog last year. No Jerace Walker. But they should still be good. All those guys I mentioned, that's on me. They're all returning. But they're not experienced as they always have been. Baylor, we can expect the same old. Great defensive team. They're going to get after you on the defensive side of the ball. Look out for them. Their defense is going to take them far, I think, as they do every year. A team to look out for, I think, is TCU. They had, I think there's a lot of Jamie Dixon, ex-Pitt coach, is a great head coach, a great basketball mind. Delaware transfer Jameer Nelson Jr. is coming in. Yes, the son of Jameer Nelson. Mm-hmm. So that's it's crazy how time flies. I'm not gonna lie, but dude, they got another transfer in Oklahoma State's Avery Anderson. This team is fast, and I think any of these top Big 12 teams are teams that can make run in the tournament because they're all going to be so deadly to stop.
Personally, looking at the Big 12 for me, I don't know how this happened, but I have Cincinnati at 6. That's
Ohio.
I honestly don't like Cincinnati in general, the city, but I think I feel like they could just have a good year joining a new conference. It's gonna be a hard conference, but we'll see how they do. Maybe not 6, maybe like 9, but other than that, I got TCU at my 7, and Texas at my 3, Houston at my 2, and Kansas at my 1.
Yeah, for me, I think the teams joining the conference this year, with the exception of Houston, are going to struggle.
Yeah.
I have I have Cincinnati at 12, and I have UCF dead last at 14.
Yeah.
I think they're both going to be bad. They're not used to playing the gauntlet that the Big 12 gives them. Obviously, Houston's going to be good, and then I do think BYU's going to be all right. They've played some good experience.
Yeah. I think the home court advantage is going to be kind of key for them out in Provo, I believe.
BYU's got a great crowd. They've played, Gonzaga, St. Mary's, teams like that. So they have some experience against those high-level teams. Now, the team that I thought was going to be a sleeper was West Virginia. They unraveled in the offseason, obviously, with Bob Huggins' situation, and then kind of cleaning house. A lot of guys transferred after that. I felt like they put things back together pretty well. And
they did a pretty good job.
And then the wheels fell off again because Kirk Risa, I don't know if you guys saw, just got suspended for, I think, accepting some sort of compensation at Arizona. Mm-hmm. So he's out for a little bit of time. And then also health issue with Akakakak. Went down in a scrimmage, I believe. I don't know when he's going to be back. But those are a couple key guys for them. I'm not as big on West Virginia anymore. I will say a guy to watch is Noah Farrakhan. He was really good at Eastern Michigan alongside Amani Bates. He was like a 12-point per game scorer. I think he could start with Kirk Risa out, and he should be really good in that role. But West Virginia, not so high on them anymore.
Shout out Seth Wilson. He goes to West Virginia. He's about a shooting guard there. He's a sniper, so watch out for him. I saw him play in high school. He's a beast. But watch out for him. Gonna have a little bit of a breakout year. He averaged 4.2 points per game last year. But he shot 41% from 3.
He's not even on the roster on this season preview.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
He's not listed as a key reserve.
They don't know ball.
They don't know ball. Kind of a team that I think you should look out for. I'm kind of high on Oklahoma State. They're a run and gun team. They live by the 3. They die by the 3.
They are the Cowboys.
And I think possible success for them this year. I like them. I like Javon Small. Last year he was out the whole year with a knee injury. I think this is a team that you can watch that could go on a run in March.
With that, we'll move on to the SEC. This is obviously kind of an up-and-coming conference, I would say. Formerly just a football conference, and now they have starting to have some success in basketball.
If they get more than 7 teams in,
shouldn't.
you will not see me on my couch.
Hopefully not.
Watching March Madness.
Obviously, Bama was the big one last year, but they do lose Brandon Miller, who... Drew, you want to explain Bama at 1 on that one? I'll take that.
He's just going off past experiences, I think, a little bit. No,
they have a good coach.
They do. He's a coach.
For me, I have Kentucky at 1. I know that's a little controversial because nobody likes Kentucky. And they are super young, as always. But I think this is one of the more talented teams they had in a while. I don't think it's going to manifest itself in wins in March because of that inexperience, but I do think they can kind of just talent their way through the regular season and play to that number 1 spot.
Kentucky definitely.
Did you say Kentucky? Yeah. Well, they have number 2 recruit in Justin Edwards. I've seen him play at Imhotep out in Philly. They have him in the preseason player of the year. I honestly think he is overrated. I think he's one of more of those just athletic freaks on the court. Basketball-wise, I don't really see him shooting it outside on the perimeter too much, but Kentucky, they're going to be solid all around. I'm big on Tennessee this year. They returned 3 of their top 4 scorers. You have Santiago Vescovi, who's a dog getting to the rim. Zakai Ziegler, who I believe is 5'9", is a great point guard, and Josiah Jordan-James. They finished last year tied for 4th in the SEC. They were a number 4 seed in the tournament.
Didn't have to remind me about that.
Why?
And beat Duke in the second round.
Exactly.
Without Zakai Ziegler, too.
Yeah, so I think there's a team to look out for. I'll get to them a little bit later, but I think a really good year for them. Then you have Texas A&M, great coach in Buzz Williams. In my opinion, I think he's a really good coach. On it, they have probably maybe the player of the year in Wade Taylor, who's going to be a really good player, 6-foot junior. He averaged 16 last year. I think he's a guy to look out for. Other solid teams, Arkansas, who I feel like they were kind of disappointing last year at how much talent they had.
A little bit.
Yeah, but a few of those guys went pro, few return. And, sorry, I'm watching the Pitt game right now out of the corner of my eye. We've been getting robbed all game.
Should have just left that with no context.
People just, I'm looking over and I'm like, SEC, I think they have a solid 6 group of schools, but other than that, the drop-off is bad, in my opinion.
I feel like Auburn could have a good year. They added a 5-star freshman, Aiden Holloway. He did go injured in their exhibition, but let's see how he does. Me and Sawyer actually have Auburn pretty high. I have him at my 5. Sawyer has him as 4. Gino, where you got Auburn?
7. I have him 7.
Not bad.
Yeah. I have him below Mississippi State, who I saw play last year. Auburn, I thought it was a really good team.
Auburn usually plays good defense, from what I...
Yeah, they're coached very well. Very good coach. Very good coach, and Bruce Pearl.
For me, a team that I think is really underrated going into this year, I see you guys both have them at 13, is Vanderbilt.
All right, buddy.
All right, listen, first of all, without looking, where do y'all think Vanderbilt finished in the SEC standings last year?
I believe they finished 9th.
Drew?
I thought they were in the 8-9
I'll go
game.
6.
They finished in a tie for 4th.
Wow.
I did not
with
know
Missouri, Tennessee. So, first of all, respect Vanderbilt. They weren't that bad last year.
Yeah.
Second of all, they would have been a lot higher if they didn't suck to start the season. They did lose to Southern Miss and Grambling State, which is kind of embarrassing. But they ended the season winning 10 of 12 or something like that. And they returned most of their important pieces. I think Jerry Stackhouse is actually not a bad coach. He just had a terrible program.
Why do you only have him at 8 then?
Well, the SEC is not a cakewalk.
All right,
I'm hedging my bets a little bit. I'll admit that. I'm a little scared to go.
No, but you have me high on them now. You got me believing.
Well, I'll admit I'm a little shook to go all in on Vandy, but I do think they're a good sleeper team in the SEC. Then they also have some good shooting there. Colin Smith is a guy who shot 38% last year. I think he'll be really good. The one thing that's a little sketchy is they don't have a lot of depth. Gino's still struggling with the
They just muffed a punt, and then we just want to slap the ball out of bounds.
But yeah, Vandy, not a ton of depth, but I think their top-end guys should be able to carry them to a pretty solid record this season. I think they could finish
Oh my God.
I have them at 8, but I would say they finish maybe 5th or 6th at their peak and make the tournament.
All right, we're going to move over now to the Pac-12 conference. Last year, the Pac-12, but I think it's going to be a really solid year for them.
We got an absolute hot take out of Sawyer's Pac-12 #1 team.
Yeah, we're going to get to that one. I like it. No, I think they're going to be a really good team. I have them 3. I don't know why you have them 5, but
hey,
I'm down to hear why.
Yeah, so Colorado. Well, first of all, let me start with. I don't love USC. I don't think Andy Enfield's that good of a coach.
I don't love USC either. We both still got them too.
We do have them too. They have the raw talent. I'll give them that, but I don't love their coaching. And I think they got some experience to go through. Boogie Ellis is really good. He's obviously got some experience, but beyond him, they're a little young. But yeah, Colorado. They have KJ Simpson at point guard. He's a dog. He had like 16 points per game last year. The big one is Cody Williams. He's the freshman on the wing. He's one of the highest recruits Colorado's ever gotten. He's an immediate plug-and-play kind of guy, which they're not used to having. Down low, they got Eddie Lampkin from TCU. He was huge last year. Had some kind of situation at the end of the year. I think he left the team. That's a little worrying. I don't love the character concern there. But if he can stay on the court, I think he's great for them. And then Tristan Da Silva as well, another like 15, 16 point per game guy in that starting lineup. So I think the starting lineup is really solid. And then off the bench, they also have another freshman, Asane Diop, who's a great rebounder, great defender. Really like a kind of high-intensity guy off the bench that should help him out. So I think between the experience and the talent, they have what it takes to finish first.
Yeah, personally, I like Arizona. Honestly, obviously, they're always a great put-together team. They also have Caleb Love coming over from North Carolina. I don't know why you guys are smirking.
I don't think that's going to work out. Arizona just like gets I don't know much, but they just get to the tournament and just like fall off or something.
I'm not saying...
Am I wrong?
We'll see how Caleb Love looks on November 10th.
Yeah, and they also have probably one of the best players in the league in Omar Ballo. It's a dominant center for them. I think they're a team to look out for. I get what you're saying. You're taking this off last year, losing to Princeton.
I'm not taking it off last year.
Who Princeton did make the Sweet 16, correct?
Princeton did make the Sweet 16.
So, yeah, give me some rep. Pac-12 always they'll probably, their usual 5 teams get in, maybe 4 this year. I don't see them being that deep, but I do like Colorado this year. I think they can be a solid team. UCLA... It's kind of a new era for them, I feel like, without Jacquez,
Jaime Jaquez and Tiger Campbell as well.
So
they're very well coached from what I've seen from UCLA.
Well, they have the guy who used to coach Cincinnati, the bald dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
McCronin.
Yeah, exactly. They are very well coached, but you're going to see a roster that you haven't seen there in a long time. Give me that sack. Sorry. Put the flag away.
Still 10-7, buddy.
All right, dude. Did you see the play? Did you see the first play of the game?
No.
It's an 80-yard touchdown throw. Our guy's running. He's about to get in the end zone. Strip at the 1-yard line.
That sounds like pit football right there.
That's the usual. I see you're kind of high on Arizona State, Sawyer. They are coached by Bob Hurley. Yeah, obviously a great coach. Probably some Duke bias.
Maybe a little bit, but I mean they got hot in the tourney last year. Honestly, I don't have a lot to say about them. I didn't do enough research on them, but. I remember I liked their roster. I think they returned most of their key guys, and like you said, Bobby.
They do have the curtain of distraction behind the hoop.
Yeah,
I don't know. You know what I'm talking about.
I think I know what you're talking about.
I'd like to mention that the last year the Pac-12 will probably bring me to tears. I'm a huge Bill Walton fan. I can't tell you while growing up, since I was probably in the 4th grade, I would put on Thursday night college basketball. Because the only game that would be on would be Pac-12, and it would start at, I believe, 9. And it would be Bill Walton just going, and I forget who was his partner, but he, genuinely was, felt so bad because Bill Walton would come out with the most outrageous things to say. If you watch a clip of Bill Walton commentary, the first thing you'll see is him eating a cupcake with
the candle.
With the candle still in the cupcake. This dude's crazy. Every segment, I think it's in the second half, they'll show, earlier that day, he'll go explore because he's all about the Conference of Champions, the great outdoors. Dude, we're in the desert in Arizona, and he's just walking around on a camel. It's so funny to look at, but that's gonna be kind of sad. It's gonna be the last year I'm gonna hear him on Thursday nights, which is kind of sad for me, but it's whatever.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big Bill Walton guy.
Dude, as an announcer, he was so funny because it's so.
Personally, I feel like a guy like Bill Walton can offer a little more analysis.
He doesn't know.
I'm trying to learn a little something from a former NBA player, but I will say he has some funny moments. I like him for those 10 p.m. start times when you're just kind of sitting there and you're like, I don't know why I'm watching this terrible. It's like Stanford versus Cal or something. You're like, why is this game even on TV? And then that's when I love Bill Walton just going off on his own tangent.
Oh yeah.
But if I'm watching like USC Arizona, I need this
you
guy
want
to
to
be locked
see
in
someone
on
who
the game.
knows what they're talking
It's
about.
almost like watching the Manning cast, but there's no other option. Like you just got this dude wandering around.
You're right. You're right. You're
He's
right.
a little lost.
You're kind of right. Now with that, we're just gonna talk a little bit about like kind of like the mid-majors teams that we kind of like this year. Obviously, Gonzaga's gonna be there every year. You know, they're gonna be high up there. St. Mary's always contests them. You have two teams that were in the Final Four last year in FAU and San Diego State returning. So most of them return decent, solid amount of their players. You have the Atlantic 10, who a lot of hype around them this year that they could maybe snag 3 teams into the tournament. I don't know how they're feeling about that. Dayton's obviously the favorite. Duquesne and St. Bonaventure have received a lot of preseason hype going into the year. So look out for that conference to maybe take a spot away from one of the Power 5 teams, steal a bid.
Duquesne good?
That's what I've been hearing. I know they have a few solid transfers coming in, and they're well coached.
Drew Joyce.
Yeah, coached by LeBron's coach in high school. So
my Drew Joyce's little brother, Cam Joyce, is also the head coach of my high school basketball team.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I did not know that. And look out for the Mountain West. Big years for New Mexico and Boise State. A lot of people are predicting they have a lot of firepower back on that end. So look out for them. You have Charleston, who was ranked literally all of last year, even though I think they lost first round. But Missouri Valley is always going to bring in a good team to the tournament too. So
by the way, nothing to do with Charleston basketball. They have a beautiful campus there. Charleston, South Carolina is a beautiful city in itself. So just like to point that. I went there this past summer. It was beautiful. Just like to point that out.
One conference Gino hasn't mentioned yet is the Ivy League. I really like Yale from the Ivy League. Obviously, Ivy's okay. You're laughing at Yale.
I'm not laughing because I know it's gonna be true. They're gonna win a game.
So I mean, to be fair, Ivy League probably one big league pretty much every year. So as long as Yale wins their conference tournament, it really doesn't matter. But they returned 4 of their 5 starters. They won the Ivy League regular season last year. They did get upset by Princeton. I don't know who you like.
I was gonna see who the worst Ivy League team was.
Oh, we can see who the worst.
I bet it's Dartmouth.
It's Columbia. Columbia sucks apparently.
I was close.
But yeah, Yale I think is going to be a really strong team again. They should make the tournament this year. I think they deserve to. One guy to look out for is Matt Noling, who's returning. He was their top scorer. He's got 3-level ability. He's not going to put his back to the basket, but he can drive, he can shoot, and he can pull up for a little mid-range. So I think Yale is a team to look out for.
All right, we're now just going to get a little overview of our Final Four predictions. We already basically covered all these teams. My Final Four, I have Duke, Tennessee, TCU, and Purdue. And my national championship is going to be Tennessee.
For my Final Four, I got Marquette, Tyler Kolek. You said he's going to fall off, but he's an absolute beast. I feel like he's coming up for blood because they lost pretty early in the tournament last year. I also have Duke. They're just stacked. MSU. They got Coach Izzo in Kansas. I feel like Kansas will make it back. They've been really good these past few years. And my national champion is the Duke Blue Devils.
For me, I think Duke and Michigan State are about as close to locks as you can get in terms of Final Four. Even though March Madness is obviously madness. I then have Purdue. I don't love having 2 Big Ten teams in the Final Four. That scares the hell out of me. But
they'll be the only 2 to win a first-round game.
Yeah, they probably will be. I'm gonna. For some reason, I'm betting on both of them to make it to the Final Four, and then I'll round it out with Texas and their experience, and then my national champion is going to be Purdue with the comeback tour.
So that does do it for episode 4 of Sports Talk Trio, our strictly college basketball episode. Again, I'm Drew Pashowski, joined by Sawyer Goldwine and Gino DeFrank. Thank you for listening, and thank you.